Borderlands, a film based on a popular, slightly psychotic looter-shooter known for its juvenile and at times dark humor, over-the-top characters, and endless loot grinds, finds its way to the big screen, where a bunch of well-known actors traipse about painfully CGI'd backgrounds, shooting their way through generic and predictable action sequences, and quipping lame one-liners in pale imitations of their in-game counterparts on a Pandora that feels about as authentic as a night on the Galactic Star Cruiser.
Punch it! Facilitate this type of...
Well, destiny awaits.
There are some positives though. I mean, Cate Blanchett shows off more cleavage than she has since Elizabeth. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of old décolletage on display if you wanted to see how some of the hotties in Hollywood are holding up all these years later. So, MILF lovers rejoice, I suppose. It's in keeping with the game at least, and it's a nice turn from Hollywood's ultra-puritanism of late, so I'm down with that. I'm not being ageist or anything, but the cast of Borderlands gets to the heart of one of the movie's big flaws. Some of the actors just feel out of place in what is a franchise associated with the younger or young at heart male demographic. I know girls play games too, but let's be real. We all know who the core audience of these games are, but the cast in general just felt too old. It was strange seeing Cate Blanchett as a gunslinging bounty hunter. Not that she did a bad job of it, though it certainly wasn't her finest effort, and she's certainly got the swagger down, but she doesn't feel like her video game counterpart at all. The same goes for almost all of the other cast, except for Krieg, who is pretty cool in a mindless smash everything kind of way. These characters are set in an energetic, chaotic world, with savagery interspersed with irreverent humor and wacky personalities amid ground-shattering explosions and immature badassery, where the guns themselves are probably more important than the actual story unfolding around you and your friends, as you riddle wasteland creatures full of holes and vaporize psychos into bloody giblets, all in an effort to get another bigger, badder weapon. There's an attempt to replicate the energy here, but with a PG rating and a cast that sometimes feels like they're on the wrong movie, coupled with a predictable story, stale dialogue, jokes that don't land, and a great big scoop of poorly rendered CGI, it comes across as the weaker, younger brother of Thor or The Witcher. Sorry, Liam. Story-wise, if you've seen a movie about a girl who's the key to everything, this is pretty much it, with a minor twist. Despite the twist, it's basically the same concept in the end. The plot mostly revolves around a quest structure until it solidifies into a hunt for the vault, which the trailers are quick to point out. You're sort of thrown into the story and action, collecting additional characters along the way, like a video game, but you don't really develop much of an affinity for any of them because the movie doesn't dedicate much time to fleshing out the characters, except for a few short scenes and throwaway lines. It's not the worst story idea, but it does feel a little too straightforward and predictable. You can pretty much see everything coming, except for the twist maybe, and that's still not too surprising if you pay attention to a couple clues along the way. Starting with the world itself, there was an effort to mix physical vehicles and props with CG, but it doesn't blend very well, and ends up looking unnatural. The extras look like contemporary people you'd see on the streets of LA that the costume department just threw some mismatched clothes on and smeared some dirt on their faces. Nothing at all like what you'd expect a real Pandora resident to look like. They felt like extras with dirt on their faces, which also clashed with the CG background and world. At times, it was like the set crew piled up a few mounds of dirt, timber, and garbage bags and said, "Don't worry about the rest, we'll CG all that in." And it's very noticeable, to the point of distracting. That being said, some environments were great, but they all suffered from the issue of feeling a little disconnected. Real actors interacting with such obviously fake environments in an attempt to make the world feel like a video game just comes across as, well, disconnected and unbelievable. There is some dire CGI going on in this film in general, which really hurts it. I'm not sure what the budget of this is, but I think most of it went to the actors. Speaking of which, Cate Blanchett's Lilith is the star of the movie, and she does a fine job impersonating a carefree bounty hunter. But in the end, it feels like just that, an impersonation. She's got the look and the walk down from the game, but she feels too old for the character. She's supposed to be around 44 if you add up the comments made in the film, but she doesn't look it, and although her performance is probably the best in the film, it isn't enough to overcome the rest of the baggage the movie has. And I couldn't help thinking about her in much more superior roles like Galadriel, or Elizabeth, or Daisy and Benjamin Button, or any of the numerous dramas she's been in and absolutely killed it. She was simply miscast. Her character takes a ridiculous turn too, that feels stilted and weird and kinda soured the ending for me rather than elevate it as it was supposed to. Kevin Hart's character felt wasted as Roland the soldier. He didn't end up being that pivotal to the plot and was used for some cheap dramatic moments that were quickly resolved. I feel like the script didn't give him much to work with. Jamie Lee Curtis acts like a bumbling, quirky scientist, a xenoarchaeologist apparently, like she's trying to channel Doc Brown but doing a substandard job of it.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
Her performance is the oddest and most uncomfortable of all. I love Jamie Lee Curtis, don't get me wrong, she'll always have a place in my heart for her role in the Halloween franchise at the very least, but wow, this performance is not it. And the fact that she's apologizing for talking shit about Marvel just last week is hilarious, based on the performance she turned in here. Tina was so, alternating between annoying and overpowered to kind of endearing. If you like movies where 12-year-olds can snap a 200-pound man's neck with her bare hands, or gut shot an adult with her fist and put him down, with no special powers, mind you, this movie's for you. For others, if you've ever played Tiny Tina's Wonderland and found her annoying, well, this isn't exactly that, but can be just as annoying at times because of the imitation of that character itself.
We're playing bunkers and badasses, baby!
Krieg and Claptrap are probably my favorite characters, although Claptrap skirted the edge of obnoxious many times. Though that's basically his character in the games, so I guess it was accurate. I just feel like the writers tried too hard to force too many jokes into the movie, and most of them fell flat. I know that's how the video game is too, but something was off here. Krieg's simplistic berserker thought process led to a few hero moments, but I wish there were more. He's an undemanding character, which made me think of Rictus, who I also love, so he was alright by me. The antagonist felt far too shallow, running into the same issue many Marvel Universe films do. He was fairly inconsequential and non-threatening. A much cooler looking and menacing baddie is introduced toward the end, and quickly discarded, but I found myself wanting that guy to be the main villain instead of what we got. Bottom line, everyone in this movie was horribly miscast, with the exception of Krieg and Jack Black as Claptrap, who worked for the role he was playing. In terms of action, there are a lot of bombastic scenes as befitting a video game, but the big one that mattered felt static and slow compared to the others. The ending sequence is hilariously cheesy and stiff feeling. There's plenty of action, and it's mostly done well, but like I said before, it feels generic and there are really no stakes. You never feel worried that your heroes might not make it. The movie doesn't have any modern day political messaging in it that I could pick up on easily, but overall it was just unfun and shallow. The problem stems from trying to make a story out of a game that really wasn't about the story. There's lots of juvenile humor in an attempt to imitate the games, but unlike Deadpool and Wolverine, where it hits so often, here it's mostly unfunny and sometimes cringy. I think this film will really be harmed by its close release to Deadpool, because both films were shooting for a similar kind of atmosphere, in terms of humor and tone, but Deadpool did it so much better. Also, although it's anecdotal, in the theater nearest to me, Deadpool and Wolverine was still playing on 3 screens, whereas Borderlands, a new release, was only playing on 2, and one of them wasn't in English. I guess I'd describe Borderlands as a lightweight popcorn flick. There's no thinking required, and you don't need to have played the games to understand what's going on or anything about the world, but it'll probably help your enjoyment. I played Borderlands 1, 2, and the pre-sequel, and this movie, although it tries hard to be those, it ain't it. Some performances were decent to good, there was some exciting action, although derivative, but the whole experience feels fake. It really fell on his face at the end, and the whole thing was dragged down by the shallow and paint-by-numbers story. It can be fun depending on how you go into it, but if you're a fan of the games, this could hurt depending on how much of a lore stickler you are. If you're looking for some crude humor and some decent action in a Borderlands skin, you might get a kick out of it. Ultimately, I'm not even sure if the people who've made this movie have even played Borderlands, let alone a video game in their life. And it shows. I'd say it's a 5 out of 10. Not the worst by any means, but it disappointingly missed on so many other fronts, which is a shame. If you want more Borderlands, play the games. They're better in pretty much every other aspect. But hey, it's better than what Uwe Boll can cook up, so there's that.